Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have one announcement to start the meeting with, and that is a reminder to residents interested in running to serve as an elected town or school district official. The candidacy filing period opens Wednesday, January 21st. Candidacy filings received at the town clerk's office during regular town hall business hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, will be marked as a date received, and all candidacy filings delivered after regular business hours electronically by mail, courier, or drop box will be receipt dated as the next regular business day when physically received at the town clerk's office. Candidates filing on the last day, Friday, January 30th, 2026, must appear in person per RSA 669:13. The town clerk's office will remain open from 4 to 5 p.m. only on the last day of filing to accept declaration of candidate forms. For more information, you can go to the town's website and look up town elections. Tonight's meeting is for the Board of Selectmen to take info from petitioners, petitioned article. Now, let me explain. This is not a public hearing. There is no discussion on the articles. The only we have the petitioners going to come up and explain the articles to the Board of Selectmen. Now, when you the time to discuss the articles is at the deliberative session. That's where your special articles are discussed. So tonight, what you're hearing, you can listen, and unless you have something to speak with does not have reference to one of our special articles, you'll be free to come up. If it's reference to special article, there'll be no discussion on it. You can do that at the deliberative session. You can hear the input on the special articles, and so when you go to deliberative session, you'll have the information. So our first petitioned article seeks to raise the income limit for elderly tax exemption. Is there somebody here who is a petitioner? Do you want to ask me as a petitioner for this? Sponsoring this?
So the lead petitioner did have a scheduling conflict this evening, but you will see in your packet at the first yellow tab after tab 4, this petition is seeking to raise the income limit from, currently we have an income limit of $47,000 if single. I'm sorry, it's currently $42,500 if single and $60,000 if married. They're seeking to raise that limit, which was set in 2023 to $47,000 if single and a combined income of not more than $66,000 if two people. And that is, they've got a note here that inflation into 2026 is about 10%. So that is what's reflected in the revised number.
So there's really nobody here to ask questions about this, but I think it's pretty cut and dry. How do we want to take these one at a time, or?
Yeah, you can, if you want to take action on these one at a time. Again, you're going to be making a motion to recommend or to not recommend. And just a note, this doesn't change the actual exemption amounts. This is just the income portion of it. The exemption amounts stay the same as they were set in 2023.
Should we just review all of them first, Peter, and then maybe vote on them?
If you want, you haven't reviewed it, you haven't had a chance to review it. This one's pretty cut and dry. Like I said, we did this in 23. And it goes before the voters, and they have to decide. There'll be an explanation on the voter's guide about it also. But go ahead, Josh. Jim, did you want to say?
Yeah, what are we raising the income to?
47 and 66.
So again, this is the petition article. So none of the language will change. You don't have any ability to change what was submitted by citizen petitioners. But this would be, again, that increase from $42,500 to $47,000 if single, or from $60,000 to $66,000 if combined income.
And this is matching federal like incomes, or how are they doing?
So when the income limits were set, they were set in 2023. That was at the same time that we did our cyclical revaluation, and that was also the time the exemption amounts were set.
Adjusted.
So that was 3 years ago, so this is asking to raise the income limits.
Where there's been no adjustments. The point from what I was told is there's been no adjustment for 3 years, and they figured it was time for an adjustment.
Correct.
Anybody else? Questions? So, as we go forward, will be make a motion to recommend or
I
not
move that we
recommend?
recommend this article.
Second Jim's motion.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Mark, in favor. Jim, is that what you're doing? That recommend?
What do we recommend?
To recommend,
We're recommending it as a
Right.
board that will be on the ballot, right?
exactly.
It's on the ballot whether you recommend it or not.
Right,
You're
with our
recommending, you're recommending adoption of it.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion carries.
Chair, did you want to do public comment, or?
That wasn't on my.
I think I left that off by accident.
Okay.
Usually as a regular meeting, you would hold it.
Yeah,
so.
okay. Is there anybody here for public comment? Does not have anything to do with these petitioned articles?
We're a little confused on if we can speak or not regarding that. We're trying to figure out if we're allowed to speak or not.
This is the articles are taken up at the deliberative session. That's your time to speak to them. And this board will also take the input at the deliberative session also. So that is your time to speak either for or against the article. Unless you're here as part of the petitioners to put forth the article, you would be making a presentation to us. At the deliberative session, if I remember right, they'll have 10 minutes to get up and speak to their article, and then there'll be discussion on it at the deliberative session.
And that's when public comment will be heard for that?
Yeah, anybody, yes, there's no restriction on public comment at the deliberative session. If you've been before, you raise your hand, you go down and speak at the microphone, for or against.
Unknown caller.
Yeah, well, you're still unknown. Sorry about that. But yes, you'll have that, the petitioner will get up, speak to their article, and anybody who wants to get up and speak for or against can get up and speak to the whole audience. And then, after all the input is taken, there'll be a call for a vote to change it and to this board also. Got it?
Can we speak tonight too, just because we're here, we came all the way here,
That's not the process,
legally?
no.
I think, okay, public comment.
Okay, our next one is a petition article proposing a fund balance limitation. Is there anybody here to speak to that? You'll need your name and address.
I'm gonna give you guys some papers first. You said you needed one, like
Yes,
a record too.
thank you.
So Shannon Carey, 16 Gorham Pond Road. So first of all, thanks for the opportunity to speak. My goal tonight is not to criticize staff or the board, but to explain why this article exists and to clarify key distinctions that are often misunderstood when we talk about fund balance. Before discussing the numbers, I do think it's important that we start with definitions. So law versus policy. There is a legal distinction between encumbered funds and assigned or unassigned fund balance. And I do believe this distinction matters. Encumbered funds, as you guys know, are legal obligations such as contracts, purchase orders, payroll, and debt service. Under RSA 32, those funds are legally restricted and cannot be used for anything else, including my warrant article. So assigned and unassigned fund balance, however, are policy level designations that are not legally locked. They can be reassigned, unassigned, or appropriated by voters. This article explicitly excludes encumbered funds. So an example for people watching at home would be if the town signs a contract to replace a roof, that money becomes encumbered and untouchable by law. If the town sets money aside for a future project with no contract in place, that money is assigned, not encumbered. So, the handouts that I gave you. So the first table really just kind of answers the basic question of whose money is this? Approximately 88% of Goffstown's general fund revenue comes from property taxes. The remaining 12% comes from a mix of sources such as state aid, grants, fees, licenses, and reimbursements. Much of the 12% is restricted, one-time or offsetting revenue, and is not stable discretionary funding stream. So even when we're fully accounting for the 12%, the overwhelming driver of fund balance growth is still property tax over collection. That is why it is accurate to say that the fund balance is largely accumulated taxpayer money. So the second kind of table that I've given you compares actual unassigned fund balance to a conservative 10% benchmark. So basically I came up with a hypothetical situation based off of the town's own accounting forms, the MS 535s, and the town's annual report that's all available on the website. I utilized those numbers from our town's records and put the 10% that I'm proposing in place for the past 10 years to give an example of how much we did actually have, our total general fund, and if the 10% was in place, how much could have been utilized to offset taxes the following year. So I think the thing to remember is that the cumulative foregone offset, the very far right column where it says 28,317,000, I just want to make a really valid point that it doesn't represent a cash pile. It's not like you guys had that money sitting in a safe somewhere here, but rather it's a pattern of repeated annual decisions not to use excess fund balance to offset taxes. So the third handout, the third page there. So this final chart places Goffstown in context with other New Hampshire municipalities. Many towns operate successfully with unassigned fund balance targets between 5 and 10%. And Goffstown's current target of 16% is higher than common practice. So I basically went to all of these surrounding towns and I looked for their policies that they have available to their residents, and this is where those towns fell in line. As for what their exact number was at this moment, a lot of towns, for some reason, don't have their MS 535s on their website, so it's hard to track down that data as just a member of the public. So, in closing, I just want to say this article does not spend money, does not cut services, and it does not touch legally encumbered funds. It simply sets voter-approved guardrails around policy-level fund balance decisions and ensures taxpayers are a part of the conversation when excess funds accumulate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You want to take this up now? You want to wait till have discussion later? We can talk about it now while everybody's here. You have the handout that was given to us. We also have a handout from our town and the history of the fund balance and present. I know on this flyer it says target is 16%. That's a recommended target, but it's not what we do. We don't have 16%.
No, I'm aware of that, yeah.
Well, I'm not, it's not a discussion.
Oh, no,
That's
yeah.
what, that, we're discussing it now. Discussing, it's not questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's us.
Can we ask questions?
About,
What's in here? The handout?
well, you can, but this handout,
Yeah, the handout that was.
our handout,
This handout.
that's ours.
Are these numbers representative of the actual budgets? Because they seem different than what I got on our handout. Because
Which numbers specifically, the total general
the
fund?
total general fund, it says 52 million here. However, if I look at 2023, based upon what we have, it's 58,792,937, but you have 52,129,291.
That's what was pulled from the MS 535.
Okay.
Are you looking at,
I'm just trying to
is she
compare.
looking at 25 or 24?
Well,
The form that you used came off of what?
I can pull it up.
Because it looks closer to 2021.
Because this is 23 here, and you're looking at, if you look at our numbers,
Our numbers are higher.
yeah, but we have to go back, we don't have 23's numbers in front of us.
We have it
I'm
here.
pulling them up.
You have it there.
Yeah, we have it.
Yeah, okay, yep, sorry. Okay, so that was a question for us, okay? So we don't know if this information doesn't match our information and the reason why. Maybe that's something for the petitioner to work out before the deliberative session, so, or maybe work out with our people in town to get the right numbers.
Just to make sure that we're
Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah, make sure
Yeah,
everybody's
so
using the right
the
numbers.
general fund operating expenses that is shown on the fund balance history that was provided to you, this was also provided to the budget committee
Okay.
last week. That's the same number that shows up on the DRA tax rate setting form.
Right.
It's not actually on our MS 535, the numbers are slightly different. What shows up on our MS 535 is looking at the general fund, the sewer fund, and up to a couple of years ago, the EMS special revenue fund.
That was pulled out
So
2 years ago.
that's a different, when we look at the general fund operating expenses, and you actually have a definition at the bottom, which is also in our fund balance policy. It's the town's general fund operating appropriation, so that's our total appropriation that's approved at town meeting, plus the state education tax commitment, the local school tax commitment, and the county tax commitment. So it's those 4 numbers that are put together. Unfortunately, it's not, you've got to pull it from different forms, and then the only place it really does show is on the tax rate setting form on the 5th page on the final
And
form.
that cumulative is what's used to determine the percentage.
The percentage, yes.
Right, because if you don't have all those together, then it looks like there's way more
Yes.
that is being taken versus. Okay.
Derek, the percentage, recommended percentage, that's from the DRA, right?
So DRA recommends a percentage between 5 and 17%. They've got a very wide margin. Your fund balance policy was established in 2007, and initially the minimum amount was 5% with a target of 8%. But then in I think it was 2013 or 2015, Government Finance Officers Association, which is the national auditors that make these recommendations, said you really should have about 2 months worth of operating cash, and you need to look at your own government's risk. It's really a risk assessment. 2 months out of 12 equates to 16.7%. So in 2022, the board modified the floor, that minimum balance, to 12% and a target of 16%, but it's really based on that GFOA recommendation.
Jim?
Is our fund, unencumbered fund balances, if we go below that, could that possibly affect our bond rating if we attempted to bond, say, a police station or something like that?
It will affect your bond rating, but I think if you go, a little bit down, if you go down into the 10% range, I don't think it will affect it negatively. What it could impact is it's going to impact potentially cash flow. One, we would have less funds, so we would have to reduce the amount of interest that we budget for. In 2025, we earned just over $500,000 in interest, and that was a revenue that we had predicted, and we did not collect taxes for that portion. So if you lower your percentage, your annual interest received is going to reduce as well. If it lowers much further, you might be looking at cash flow where the town has to take out tax anticipation notes.
TANs.
Yeah.
Yeah, which obviously could also increase taxing because.
Yeah, because that has a cost associated with it. So we reached out to council real quick, and they said it's about $3,500 for the attorney's work on that. And then you've got anywhere between a 5% and 8% interest rate that the banks would charge you for that, as well as additional staff time for that. Again, we would have to do a more thorough analysis of our cash flow to see what percentage that would actually impact and where that would impact.
I heard at the budget committee, both you and Danielle mentioned something about we're running at 99% of utilization of the revenue, correct?
So in 2025, in terms of appropriation, we're gonna end up underspending the budget by about $300,000, which means we've expended 99% of the appropriation. And our revenue above is probably gonna be about $250,000 above what our revised revenues were.
Then we were able to take those monies and put on special articles, one for the fire truck, and the other special articles that came out of that fund. So it's not that the towns were soaking it away, we're using it to do projects in the town, like the fire
Agreed.
truck, road, things that, where if we didn't have that, we wouldn't be able to do that.
I guess my question is Derek, the 2 months, I think, is partly guided by, we have to wait for a period of time before we get revenue from the taxation, right, basically?
Correct. Our tax bills go out most likely the middle of May with a July 1st deadline. So the only revenues we have coming in are motor vehicles, anything from the transfer station and a few others. Most of our smaller, we don't get meals and rooms till the very last week of December. Highway safety is on a quarterly basis, so yeah, you're not really getting a lot of those, but we have the ongoing personnel expenses and operating expenses that are occurring throughout the year.
Paying out to the school, 'cause
Yep.
and some of that comes out of this unassigned fund balance, or?
No, the school portion comes out of what we've collected for
What
taxes.
we collected for taxes?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, motion?
I did read through the article, and I know it mentions RSA 32, but is this really RSA 32:11? The portion about 10%? I thought there was a direct,
No, 10% rule is if you overspend, you have to have a special, you have to have a special election or a special.
So there is a 10% rule in RSA 32. It has to do with the budget. When the budget committee proposes a budget, it goes on the warrant. The warrant is warning the voters of what will be discussed at town meeting. You cannot increase that budget beyond 10% of what was proposed. So, yes, there is a 10%
Right.
rule in RSA 32,
But it has nothing to do with unassigned fund balance.
No, fund balance actually, and unassigned fund balance is actually not defined in the statutes. It actually falls under DRA's administrative rules.
okay. And since the policy that we currently have in place states, 12 to 16%, how does that get impacted? Because the policy was set by the governing body previously.
Yes, so we did send a copy of this petition warrant article to both NHMA Legal and the town attorney. The town attorney has not rendered a decision or a recommendation. NHMA has rendered a recommendation that this would not be a binding article, but we are waiting to hear back from the town attorney on that.
Okay.
What do you mean it won't be a binding article?
So this is one of those powers that is given to the governing body under DRA's rules and their admin
You
rules.
mean us?
Yes, it's given to the governing body, given to the select board, and there's nothing actually in state law stating that, anything about policy for it. So, NHMA was of the opinion that this is a right that is reserved by the select board to set what that unassigned fund balance amount will be.
And that's advisory.
That's advisory, again, I'd feel more comfortable once we hear back from the town attorney.
Yeah.
Because they would defend us in any cases, but that's what NHMA advised.
One thing that bothers me, that if we pass this, we would never be able to comply with the auditor's recommendation of 16% or too much, correct?
So that's not our auditors, that's a group that's throughout the United States. They set accounting and auditing standards for governmental, and they have all different types of recommendations. So they have guidance that they said. So their guidance is 2 months, and what they advise is each local government might be a little bit different. You have to look at, you really have to look at your specific set of circumstances. I would point out, some of the town's specific set of circumstances is we do not have a contingency fund. There is a contingency fund allowed under New Hampshire law. The town of Goffstown has not put that forward. I would say if you had a contingency fund, you may be able to hold a little bit less fund balance, because again, you're holding it for that emergency. Additionally, about 25% of your annual revenue comes from the meals and rooms tax. That is fully dependent on the legislature and the governor up in Concord. If they go through a biennial budget process and they change the percentage, which they have in both, they've reduced it and they've increased it in different times. But if they reduce it in a year, that's gonna happen to us in December after we've gone through the budget already. So, since meals and rooms is 25% of your revenue, we would say that you need to be very thoughtful about that, because that's a very political process when they set that meals and rooms amount.
Do we have time to wait for our attorney?
On your recommendation, unfortunately, you did not, no. Again, this is what you're recommending on the warrant. If there's any amendments to the article at the deliberative session, then you could modify your recommendation for or against.
So Derek, you just said 25% of the revenue comes from
Meals and rooms.
meals and rooms tax.
From your, I would say from your other revenue, from the revenue that we,
Okay,
that.
so it'd be 25% of this 12 that was presented
Yes,
here. Gotcha.
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Is it, Derek, also fair to say that the towns around us that maintain a lower fund balance tend to also maintain more capital reserve funds than we do?
We would have to look at each one, I haven't studied them. I think one of the points we did talk to about the budget committee is if you did have more expendable trust funds, more capital reserve funds, or a contingency fund, then you could scale that fund balance back a little bit. Speaking for the only one that I'm aware of, I know Bedford has, they have dozens and dozens of capital reserve funds for many different,
For different use cases?
for different use cases, so that may factor into their decision to hold less
And
fund balance.
we can't initiate any of those now
Correct.
because it's already too late to do that?
Yes, correct.
Like, we could have initiated some of them earlier on.
Yeah, I think the board, probably working with CIP and the budget committee, would want to look at how you want to change our budgeting approach.
So it's
We
definitely
talked about this
Yeah,
numerous times, about, problem is if you have too many articles, then there are people,
understood.
and some towns have, like Derek is saying, 10, 15 articles in there, people gotta go through, and so we thought it was just simple as the way, try to keep it simple.
Yeah, but I think maybe if this is a major concern of the town, maybe we can look at other ways to get some of that down. If we find some of the capital reserve funds, maybe next year we put it up for voting or whatever. Okay.
Motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the,
No, but you either recommend or don't recommend. We're not approving.
recommend,
You wanna recommend the article to limit the 10%?
yep.
Okay. Not seeing a second, or if that fails, anybody else?
I'll make a recommendation to not approve, or not to recommend the article.
I'll second that.
Any discussion of that we haven't already heard? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Marks for 410. Our next one is as petition article proposing restriction on retail sales of non-regulated intoxicating substances, Crampton products, hallucinogenic plants and fungi, and poppers. Is there, Your name, please?
Hi, my name is Laura Warnock, and I'm the education coordinator at the Northern New England Poison Center. I'm here on behalf of resident Patricia Bannon, who had a medical emergency to attend to. She lives at 39 Peppermint Street here in Goffstown. She asked me if I could come and speak to this topic as a subject matter expert. These materials, these topics, these products are products that many people are not aware of, what exactly we're talking about. This is just a data sheet that was created by the agencies that are sponsoring this warrant article. Actually, it's two sides, so they're each two pieces. And I'll give one over here to your town administrator. I assume,
Yes.
for the record. Okay.
Thank
I
you.
will also say that in addition to being the face of poison in New Hampshire, I'm also a selectman in my community of Hampstead, and you have my deepest sympathies at this time of year, because we just went through that whole conversation ourselves, so I will make this as brief as possible. The effort to place restrictions on these these unrestricted products, unregulated products, is a regional effort to bring these products to the attention of the legislature. Whether you, in deliberative session and town meeting, create this as a binding regulation or simply as a non-binding topic of discussion is certainly within your purview. What I will tell you is that we are seeing an increase in the number of these unregulated but psychogenic products available in convenience stores, smoke shops, vape shops, etc. Like any other substance, the dose makes the poison, and the way that they're utilized makes the poison. Kratom or kratom, I'm going to use kratom, it's pronounced several ways, is a natural product. It's a leaf material that is used culturally in many areas. It is also often used by individuals struggling with opioid use disorder and other medical conditions in the way that, say, supplements are used. And while they may get relief from it, the fact that it is an unregulated product poses problems for us, because it means that there's no regulation on purity, on labeling, on actual purity of content when someone is selling this product, and there are no age restrictions on it. It's being sold both in leaf material, bags that look like sort of tea or powdered leaves. It's also being sold in pill products that take the active chemical 7-hydroxymetragenine and compress it into pills. And again, these are being sold in gas stations and behind the shelf. I actually, on my way here, stopped in a couple of your gas station convenience stores to see if these products are being sold. I didn't see any, which is a good thing. However, they are legal product to be sold. And your proximity to the city of Manchester, where they are readily available, I think brings up the risk. These are just in the way of alcohol. Alcohol, we know, can cause death in and of itself. Can these products cause death in and of themselves? Not likely, but they can cause impairment and lead to trauma injuries. We have not seen a lot of overdoses on this substance, largely because we don't test for this substance in our usual drug screens. It's kind of like COVID. If you don't test for it, the numbers seem really low. We do see it in autopsy, but usually when it's an autopsy investigating an overdose for other substances. So this product does not respond to Narcan because it is not an opioid product. However, again, regulation, proper labeling, and restricted sales are the basic efforts behind this movement. Nitrous oxide, you may remember from your youth as whippets. Other people, I'm sure, were using them, not you. No judgment. Nitrous oxide is laughing gas. It's now being sold in 3-liter canisters. That's a lot of laughing gas and used as a party substance on the pretext that it's used for making whipped cream. in those whipped cream dispensers that you may have at home. It's flavored, bubblegum, berry flavored, not the kind of thing that you would, if you make whipped cream, you add the flavoring to the cream, not to the gas. The flavors added to the gas are to make it a fun product to use for other purposes, for getting high. Unfortunately, it can cause significant brain damage. So we're trying to make sure that if these products are being sold in convenience stores, we've placed limits on them. We've placed limits as far as age, as far as access. The other products listed on here are things you've heard about. Psychedelic mushrooms being used therapeutically in some great studies right now, but used recreationally can be very dangerous, especially for adolescents and young adults. So again, regulating the products, regulating the age of sale, regulating access is the purpose behind both of these. With regard to the second one, I'll just mention the petition regarding cannabis and marijuana products, just to cut to the chase so that we don't spend a lot more time on this. The cannabis products that we're seeing fall under the Farm Bill and can be sold as hemp products. However, many of them contain either quantities of Delta-9 THC, which is the psychogenic stuff that's in the fun cannabis products, or Delta-8, which when processed in the body, turns into Delta-9 and creates the same psychogenic effects. So while these products are labeled as hemp, they have the same potential for harm that the other cannabis products do. And again, because they're labeled as hemp, they're able to be sold without violating the regulations that we currently hold for Delta-9 cannabis products, THC products. So we're just encouraging you to keep an eye out for these products in your area. If you do see them in your area, or if you want to be proactive by setting regulations to prohibit their sale to underage, that would be a very useful strategy. It's more a matter of vigilance, because so many of these, we call these over the counter, but under the radar. If you have any questions about these products, I would be happy to answer them. Whether you, in your deliberative session, pass these as prohibitions and actual regulations, or you change them to non-binding guidance, the effort is really to send the message to Concord to start creating some rules that we can all go by and we can all discuss for regulating these potentially dangerous products and keeping them away from kids.
Thank you much.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions before we want to go? I'm going to have the chief come up and talk to us about enforcement.
No, I have just main one question, like how would we actually enforce this?
Well, we're going to try now.
That's a challenge.
Have the
I
police
talked
chief-
to my own police chief about this too, believe me, I understand that.
Because a lot of these would be based upon selling and commercialization.
Good evening, chief.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for having me. What questions can I answer or
I
help?
think we kind of want to get your input on this. Have you dealt with any of this? Is this an issue in our town?
We have not been experiencing kratom in our community. And I shouldn't say that the community isn't. We're not aware of it, and the PD's not. Talking to the SROs, they're not experiencing it. In fact, the only thing I've heard about it is there was a potential for somebody in the town that was overdosing on some substance at one point, and somebody might have mentioned throughout that overdose that it could have been kratom, but they weren't sure what it was. This is kind of a new thing to us. This petition's new to our department as well. Kind of reminds me a little bit back years ago, we were dealing with spice, with synthetic marijuana, and bath salts. We had numerous people selling spices, that were illegal from the DEA. But certainly here in our town, we haven't dealt with it. I know that there's, on the other one, the THC products, there's some stuff that we've seen with some people that are using it in vape pens. they're having adults buy it for them, and they're using it.
Yeah, they're going to other states
Yep.
and bringing it back.
Other states, they're going to other communities. I would only kind of ask this board to kind of look at the legalities of us putting this ordinance or this actual article. If it does pass, what are the legalities of us? How can we even legally do that? I think there's a little bit of a question there on whether or not we, as a town, can legally restrict or prohibit businesses from selling this.
Correct.
Where it comes from the state or the DEA or the federal government.
Derek, have you looked into this?
Yeah, so we did reach out to the town attorney on this, and his opinion was state and federal laws preempt the town being able to regulate this. And we went a little bit further too. So New Hampshire is a home rule state. We have to find the law that gives us the authority to do something. And there's really, there's 3 laws that give the select board or the town the ability to do regulations. The first one is under RSA 31, 39 through 43. That's the power to make bylaws. That's generally how we do our ordinances here in town. There is no authority in there about regulating any substances of this type. When we look at RSA 4111, that's really your ability to regulate traffic, traffic regulations, so any movement in streets, sidewalks, or on public commons. And then the only other one really falls under RSA 147, and that's health ordinances, but that's very limited to septic systems, condemning buildings, those types of things. It doesn't. Our review of it, it really appears that the substances described in both petition articles would better be regulated under RSA 318, which falls under the Commissioner of the Department of Health and Human Services. So that's really done on the state level. Right now, there is a bill before the Senate Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill 557, and that's looking to put some regulations on kratom. So I guess our advice would be, whether this is adopted or not at town meeting, we would advise you that this is not enforceable, has to be done at the state or federal level. Perhaps the petitioner at a deliberative session may want to make it more advisory so that they can note and pass that along to the legislators up in Concord.
And I'll add, Mr.
Go
Chair,
ahead. Go
you know,
ahead,
as the police chief in this community who is concerned about, different drugs, whether over the counter, whether legal or not legal, anything that's gonna alter people's state of mind, if this is something that the town passes as a community and it's legally binding and we can enforce it, the agency will enforce it if it becomes either ordinance or law. It's the same thing that happened when Spice first came out. There was a lot of deregulation, there wasn't a lot of regulation, then eventually the state and DEA got involved in it, and then we started going around checking stores to verify things were the way they should be.
So, Derek, if I understand what you said, at the deliberative session, this could be made advisory and then maybe ask the select board to opinion to the state?
Yes, I think we've had similar petition articles where the result of the article, if it's adopted, that it be shared with the state legislator and state reps. We've done that in the past. But the opinion of the town attorney is this is preempted by state.
So it may be better if somebody at the deliberative session makes it so it's not binding and more of an advisory situation.
Right, but our position now is whether we recommend it or don't recommend it.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can recommend something you can't enforce. My opinion.
I don't disagree with anything, but it says in this handout we were given that Franklin, New Hampshire has banned kratom sales.
They have.
They have. You checked?
Yeah, we were aware of that, and our town attorney was aware of that as well. I guess at some point, I don't know if anyone's challenged the Franklin ordinance or not.
It's good until somebody challenges.
Until somebody challenges it. I also think, what's in here is also very broad too. I agree with some regulations around some of these aspects, but just to completely say no way, I know that, even mushroom products help some individuals with PTSD, and that's helped them. So personally, like, I would have a problem with all of these being on here.
So make a motion.
I'll make a motion to not recommend this.
Seconded.
Just for clarification, can we treat each petition separately?
Yeah, I'm only speaking about the first one.
Okay. The first one in your
Propose
packet.
a
that's the-
restriction of sales.
So that's the kratom hallucinogenic plants and poppers?
No, yes.
Yeah, who's?
C.
I just wanna make sure I
Number
knew.
C.
Yep.
Okay, it was motion by Josh, seconded by Richard. Any further discussion or questions on that? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion carries. Next one is the petition not proposing restriction of retail sales for non-regulated and intoxicating cannabis or marijuana products. Age restriction, packaging, labeling requirements, and product testing requirements.
Yes, there you go. So, we are the only state in this area that doesn't allow this, and people are going across the border and doing it. I think the real problem is the regulation.
But that's not us.
I know it's not us, but I think, again, I think this needs to go to the state. The state needs to be dealing with this.
We're working so hard at the state level.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll be back, we'll see you February 3rd.
Go ahead. So where are we at?
We were discussing the next article,
we're on D.
specifically about, THC substances. So, I mean, me personally, I know that it's getting into the schools. Right, I've seen it, I got kids in high school showing up there.
Yep,
I mean, you agree with that, right, Chief?
I agree.
And it's definitely with the vape pens that are coming across. I
Yep.
mean,
And I think to the point, even though it's legal and they sell it to people that are adults, it's like alcohol. They're getting it from people that are older than them, and they're basically giving it to children or underage kids.
We're looking at the article that's in front of us. It needs to be, if it needs to be changed to put an age restriction on it, that needs to be done at the deliberative session. We're looking at what's in front of us right now.
well, this does say under 21, no person or entity shall sell.
What's up,
But you can't even, I mean, I get what they're saying, like the THC products over here are accessible. But as far as I know, at least from what I've seen, Chief, is anybody really buying the products here? Like on this level, where they're buying something as hemp and then using it? Because a lot of what I've seen is it's coming from the other states.
Yeah, I don't know what's on that. I'm sorry, I have not seen that, so I don't really know what you're referring to. Sorry.
It's basically saying hemp-derived cannabis products are being used here, like they can be sold legally, but then may have some level of THC or Delta-9, some of those pieces.
Yeah, I can't comment specifically to what the products are, other than their THC. I know, and this is not necessarily in our community, but I know I've seen other places where they're infusing Delta-9 into beer and selling it at a bar as a beer that's just kind of giving you a little bit more potency. So whether it's Delta-9 or pure THC or hemp or oil or I don't know. I know that it's coming and kids are smoking it in vape pens. It's being marketed to children in ways that, or into the younger generation. But again, I'm just seeing this for the first time kind of over this last kind of weekend. There are some laws out there. 318B does cover marijuana infused. That's a law already. I think to the farming agriculture law, I don't have a grip on that. I have to really do some dive into that to see kind of where that Delta-9 comes from, and that's something that I'm not familiar with per se, the farming agriculture one. But I would speculate, and I'm saying this publicly, I would speculate that there's probably some stuff that's being marketed as something that really
Sure.
isn't. But I don't have concrete evidence of that in our community.
But I do think it comes down to our ability to enforce this, and also as select board to be able to enact it. And I support the mission of this one. I just, unfortunately, I'm going to make a motion to not recommend this article because we can't enforce it. However, I'll wait for discussion. I'll see if anybody seconds it.
Seconded.
Okay.
The discussion is if a deliberative session, if anybody were to modify this to be advisory, I definitely would support that.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
I think that's a better way to go.
Motion by Josh, seconded by Richard, to not recommend. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
And that includes those. The rest all set, Derek? We just go into town administrative review report?
Yes, at tab 5A, you have a copy of the draft warrant. And if we could start on page 24 of your packet. We do need a select board recommendation or not recommendation on the proposed budget.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to recommend Article 9, the town's operating budget, in the amount of $27,519,425.
I'll second that.
Any discussion, questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the motion carries.
The next article, and again, I did put a note in your packet. If the board does want to take any of the, I took your votes when you proposed items, but if anybody wants to review or redo any of your articles and your recommendations, we can do that. The next one that I had that needed a vote was on, I did want to bring up Article 16. Again, this was for the stipends. The Budget Committee took a vote to not recommend 11 to 1 to 1. And I just wanted to confirm the Select Board's vote on this matter, on what you, that you wanted to recommend it or not recommend it.
Is this by special article? Who put that article in?
The Select Board
We
did, you
did.
voted on it a week ago.
To do it as a separate article?
Yes.
Can we take it out?
At this point, no, it's been presented as an appropriation article to the Budget Committee. All you could do would be to either not recommend or to rethink your vote on that.
What do you want to do, Mark? I mean, I'm not going to be here, so we're not, don't look at me. If it was me, I would say
So if we.
we vote for it because it's a lot of work we do, and I would say,
The question I was gonna ask is if we go through this again here,
you can't do it. You can't put it back in.
well, the way it is,
You can't put, if you decide, you won't be able to decide to put this back in the budget if it's voted.
If the town votes it down, no appropriation can be utilized, basically.
Exactly, I know what I'm talking, I've done this before.
I know, I'm just emphasizing that, Peter. I'll make a motion to recommend this article.
second it.
Motion by Josh, seconded by Mark. Any discussions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, 5-0.
Okay, and I think I have all your other votes that you took this evening on the petition articles. I'll reach out to the board members because what we'll need to do over the next week is organize which board members will speak to each article at the deliberative session. And I want to talk to you individually on that, so I will reach out to you on that. But that is all we needed for the warrant. We will print that out this evening and ask for you to sign that before you leave. The default budget was the 2026 default budget. I just want to make sure that the board is aware that is in your
I signed it.
your chambers. So I would ask for a motion to approve that and then have everyone sign that before you leave this evening.
Any questions on that? You guys get a chance to look at it?
What is that here?
It's not in here, it's sorry, it's in the other room.
I have a copy of it.
You have a copy?
Which one is that? I'm sorry.
This is the default budget. This is if our town operating budget failed. So it is in the amount of $26,648,427.
You just need a motion to approve
Yes.
the form.
Yeah.
Okay.
Approve the form.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve our default budget in the amount of $26,648,427.
I'll second that.
Motion by Richard, seconded by Josh. Any discussion, questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. 53rd payroll.
So we have two budget transfers for you at tab 5C. The first is the 53rd payroll. Because the 53rd payroll fell on December 31st and January 1st, we had the option of booking it in either year. The board chose to book this in 2025. What you have here is we do need to transfer funds into fire department, public works, parks and rec, and library from the benefits line in the total amount of $184,594.97.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget transfer request for reallocation of $184,594.97 from the benefits line of the departmental wage, tax, and retirement lines as presented.
Second.
Motion by Josh, seconded by Richard. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries.
And then the second one, I'd asked for, at your December 8th meeting, there was a motion to allow the fire department to purchase car 2 replacement out of available funds in the fire department operating budget. As we get to the end of the year, we actually need to transfer funds into fire department from benefits because some of the unanticipated fixes that they had, especially the pump fix that we did get news is not going to be reimbursed through our insurance coverage, as well as some of the overtime costs. So what I'd ask for the board is first the board reconsider your vote of December 22nd, 2005 for the budget transfer of $85,500 from fire ops into CIP. And then after you reconsider it, it would be a motion to approve the budget transfer request, again, from benefits, from your insurance benefits line into the fire CIP vehicle line.
So, I know the chief's not here. How much did the cost come out to be for fixing that? Do we know?
We were at 25,000 and change. He's still working with Bulldog on some issues with it.
So we're still not finished.
Correct. We're not finished, but we've held the check back at this point. For the
But we only approved upwards of 10%, I
yes.
believe.
Yep. We are aware of that, and if we need to bring it back to the board, we will do that.
Well, we also had the idea that we were going to get reimbursed for certain.
We definitely did float that possibility that we were hopeful that Primex may cover it, but the pumps are one of those things that they exclude.
Yeah, I never heard that it was a certain thing. It felt like we were kind of
Maybe.
like, we were hoping.
Hoping.
Not really good strategy. And what about the overtime? Like, where was that all coming in from? Is that from EMT or?
No, it's, some of it is a little bit, when he did his initial analysis, that was before we paid out for holidays. Holidays in the fire department, they get the entire year holiday check in the first one, so I think when he was looking at his operational budget at the end of November, he thought he'd be okay for wages. That holiday pay actually hits the wage line, so it was just a little bit of something he wasn't anticipating.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, please.
Which we've done before. Take it out of the capital reserve fund. He's got the money in the capital reserve fund. We've done that before. We did it on a vehicle. We took it out of capital reserve fund.
Yes, I think what we have told the budget committee over the last few years is the fire apparatus fund is only for large apparatus, those engines, tankers, and towers. We do have enough funds in the 2025 budget to do this transfer. It's from benefits due to other ones not being used. We'll still be within our appropriation if you do this. I think if you do that, it kind of goes against what we've been telling the budget committee for the last few years.
Why would we tell the budget committee that when we've been doing this, we've done it in the past? So
We have
what
done
changed, What changed that?
We have done it in the
operation?
past. I think it's probably been 6 or 7 years since we purchased a command vehicle out of fire apparatus. And between town hall and the fire department, we kind of had a gentleman's agreement that we would not do that again.
Because what happened was the thing wouldn't pass inspection.
Because what?
One of our command vehicles wouldn't pass inspection, and we were in a jam, so we went to the capital reserve fund.
It was the old, I think it was the old Ford.
Yep, then we bought it out of the capital reserve fund. This is kind of the same situation.
So, besides the gentleman's agreement, like, what would be the downfall of pulling that out of there?
So right now, we have enough funds to buy the replacement, I don't know if it's tanker or engine in 2026. As we look forward to the tower replacement in 2030, even if we're putting in $350,000 every year, it's gonna be very tight on that. And then the next replacement in 2032, we are projected that we will not have enough funds in that. So at some point, we're going to have to increase the deposit amount into it beyond $350,000. So that's where I understand it wasn't necessarily planned, but you do have a savings in the benefits line. It is our recommendation that you transfer funds from there into CIP.
And it's coming out of this year's budget?
2025.
2025?
Yes.
We approved the purchase in '25.
Yes, and all the orders and everything were put in 2025.
Okay, so it still would be coming out of that, even though
Yep.
we're doing this in 2026?
Yes.
So we would have to reconsider our previous vote,
Yep.
which was to take that money and put it into the,
What you did is you took it from fire ops and put it into CIP. We're asking you to reconsider that vote and then take it from the benefits line where you are under expended and put it into CIP.
okay, the downfall of doing that? Any downfall?
I don't see any downfall at this point. The budget committee made significant cuts to our benefits, our townwide benefits line for next year in the tune of 230,000 approximately. We're actually below default and we're watching that benefits line. You're not gonna have any savings in your benefits line in 2026 to pay for contingencies. So this is really probably gonna be the last year that you're gonna be able to do this in 2025. That we're gonna have those savings, unless we start having vacancies again.
Fun times?
So when would we be able
So you
to?
need to make a motion to reconsider,
Yep.
and that has to be seconded, so we have to take a vote on that, and then another motion to take the funds out of the benefits line.
I'll make the first one to reconsider the 85,500.
From fire ops into
Fi-
CIP?
Yeah,
Okay,
Second.
Seconded by, motion by Bart, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries.
and then the next one would, we were asking for a budget transfer to reallocate $85,500 from insurance benefits line to the fire CIP vehicle line.
I'll make that motion too.
I'll second it too.
Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion carries.
Question, Peter.
Go ahead.
So if we have to make adjustments to the 250,000 we put in for the reserve, capital reserve fund every year for fire apparatus,
Well, now it's 350.
yeah, is it gonna be 350?
So right now it's 350, projecting out, and I can share, I don't have the chart with you. We showed it to the budget committee on the budget committee hearing. We've projected out through 2032. At some point, the fire department is going to need to look at, are they going to space their vehicles further than 20 years? Or are we gonna start setting a little bit more money aside? Or are we going to go to the taxpayer in that year and ask them to fund any gap? I mean, there's a couple different strategies that we could do it.
I was gonna just say if we could move it up to 350.
It's at 350
Move
this
it.
year, that's what's proposed. I think with a new chief coming on board, that's something he'll look at as he goes into the spring and CIP presentations this summer.
So it's already 350 for
Yeah.
this year.
But okay,
All set?
yeah, fine.
So,
Anything else, Dirk? Oh, right.
yeah, just one question, Derek. So the capital reserve funds that we were discussing earlier, would any of those help situations like this too, or? If we had-
Situations like the car?
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess it's always always an option. I think, one of the nice thing about the fire apparatus capital reserve fund is we have except for that one instance where we had a vehicle that that we were not planned for, was not in the operational budget, but came back from DPW and said, this thing will not pass inspection, we cannot put it on the road. That was kind of an emergency where we were able to go in and spend from the capital reserve fund. I think, I don't know that it would help with necessarily with the fund balance and the balancing of that.
But remember this, on a special article, no means no.
Yes,
So if you had this on a special article and it got defeated, you wouldn't be able to get it. You wouldn't be able to even go into the budget and get it.
I know, but we were talking about transferring out of a capital reserve fund a second ago, right?
So instead of transferring spending out of a capital reserve fund, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with that, with the specifics of this, and because we've been telling the budget committee for a couple of years that it's on those larger, I think it would really have to be a dire situation for our staff to recommend that.
Yeah, but I'm also wondering, like, Derek, if we had more CRFs in place for certain things, and they were earning interest on some of those, maybe we could utilize them in different ways that we can't now. Because, let's just say we ever lower the policy amount from like 12 to 10%, which I don't think is a bad thing necessarily. But you can't give that money back to the taxpayers, right? That has to be, like, it can go to offset the taxes.
So it goes off to offset the taxes, and it only happens in 1 year.
Yeah.
So if all of a sudden you do a big where you give $1 million back, that $1 million isn't there the next year for you to give back. It's a one-time.
But you could propose to put it into one of these, like.
Capital reserve fund.
Capital reserve fund,
Yep.
and then it could be utilized for things in the town.
Yes. Yep.
What's the difference from what you're doing now?
There may be a little bit more autonomy to move on things versus waiting for once a year, I guess is what I'm saying. Because you can transfer out of the capital reserve fund and spend on things that come up.
The agents to expend can expend from it, yes.
Right.
But it
Yes.
has to be, a capital reserve fund is specific.
It is specific.
So, in the way we do it now, on unreserved fund balance, it's not specific.
Correct, it's not
It's
specific.
specific when we go to the voter.
It is to the voter, and it's also, it doesn't allow for you to operate, I guess is what I'm saying. Because you're having to wait, and if you don't get it, then you don't have it there, but if you had some money, so like.
It's the same way, it's the same
But we
thing.
created a CRF, for instance, for the library, or at least that's what we're trying to do. So that way they have money for, going after grants and things like that. So if there's other ways that we can like make movement in the town, maybe we should consider something.
That's a specific thing the library's going for.
So I think it's definitely something the select board next year may want to
Consider.
investigate. I would say the school district has had very good luck with their CIP CRF.
CIP CRF, okay.
Which is capital projects, they have a list of capital projects that's always changing, but it's for capital projects, and they used it for the sprinklers up at Mountain View. They've used it for many various different projects,
But we'd have to.
and they had a little bit of flexibility with
But you'd
that.
have to create an article for that, right?
Yes, yep.
And we'd have to get that voted in.
Yes, yep,
Got it.
You put money into it every year.
yep.
Okay.
Anything else?
I did have one last
Oh, go ahead.
under town administrator's report. Just a status update on Hadley Falls Dam.
Well, that's good.
NHDES has received authorization to use the aquatic resource mitigation grant funds to remove the dam, and I think they've got about $4.6 million coming to them. But it's very limited to wetland mitigation, to actually restoring the wetland, to taking the dam out. It's not really any of those off-site improvements and since the removal of the dam is gonna have a huge impact on the village, working with Andy Catarat from the River Advisory Committee, as well as a local, he's on the Piscataquag River Land PERLAC, the River Advisory Committee. We have scheduled a tentative meeting with Executive Counselor Stephen to have him come in and talk with us to see if there's anything else that the state can do to help out, kind of to mitigate that loss of the dam and the impact it'll have on the village. So we're tentatively scheduled for that for February 9th. I think I had told the board previously that it was gonna be next week, but we're looking at February 9th at this point.
And is it a, don't recommend it if they're not gonna put money with it?
What do you mean?
If telling it.
I think this is an-
Counselor, that if they can't find more money to do reclamation around it, that we don't want it done.
So I think what you could do is you could ask the executive council to not hand those funds over to DES. I think that's really, it's your, kind of your only leverage point of, you really need to highlight the loss to the village, and because those ARM funds have no purview beyond the wetlands, then yes, you'd be looking for some assistance from the state. with-
When we made a motion to recommend before, it was through different funds and different presentation as to what was
Yes,
here for,
yes.
correct?
Yep.
So, I mean, we can make a motion to not recommend moving that path, correct, Derek, at that point in time?
You can, I just want to double check the correspondence how you did on
The dam has to go, because the state's under pressure to get rid of the dam. So what, let me ask you a question. So they say, hey, it's yours. We're now taking you, giving you, we've offered, we're supposed to do this, now it's yours. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, I get that, Peter, but I think the larger
Well, I
problem.
get that. I mean, what are you gonna do?
Well, I'd like to finish my sentence
Go ahead.
first. I think that the issue is that we talked about it before, and we talked about beautification of the area, because basically we're gonna lose things like Pumpkin Regatta and everything else. And so the dam has been an essential part of this community. And I think we made that recommendation originally under the premise that they would help this town create more area for us to have, events or things like that the town could enjoy. I think for them to go down this path, and I understand why they're doing it, because like the dam is not, it's not gonna be functional, and nobody's gonna be able to handle the federal requirements that are there. But at the end of the day, like, they should be pitching in for removing that dam because they're taking a portion of this town when they do it.
I mean, I've been hearing from people who know about that stuff, and they said you have some serious silt problems and things that they're not even thinking. Well, somebody's thinking about them, but it's gonna be a lot worse than we were told.
Well, yeah, I would suggest you have somebody here to answer those questions from the state then at the same time.
So the DES will be, the commissioner from DES is going to be attending as well.
Okay.
And we're also going to reach out to our state reps and state senator and invite them to the meeting as well.
Just to get their input, I mean.
I think we should
I
get
think,
their support.
I think it's also an opportunity for the select board to advocate for the state to go beyond just the wetland, the mitigation. It's gonna have a huge impact on the town, and you're gonna lose the Pumpkin Regatta, you're gonna lose, the character of the village is going to change significantly, and that's your opportunity to advocate for the town.
We need to find out exactly what the 4.5 million is gonna cover too.
Have we ever quantified our losses, our potential losses?
We have not.
Could we?
We can work with Main Street to try and get some numbers on what they see on Pumpkin Regatta.
That might be helpful in letting them know what they're doing to us.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Well, it may be better, because I don't know if Main Street's gonna be able to answer all of that, Derek. But maybe some of the local businesses that like Ace for sure,
Yep.
Karen and a few others, like, would be good to ask them if they have any historical numbers on what revenues are around those 2 days.
Okay. Yeah, I can reach out to them.
That doesn't necessarily mean there won't be another function, it just won't be the regatta.
Well, there definitely won't be the regatta.
Right.
But if they don't do anything to help beautify or,
No, I'm just saying, that when you're talking about trying to figure out if they lose money, how much they're gonna lose, it's kinda hard to tell if they don't. If they still have another function, you wouldn't be able to tell. Anything else? I know you had something on the non-public.
Yeah, we have one item under non-public.
Mark?
Make a motion to go into non-public session, RSA 91A:3(2) for compensation A.
Yep.
Second?
second,
Motion by Mark, seconded by Josh.
Yes.
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 Say yes. Jim?
Yes.
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 That'll conclude tonight's public portion of our January 20th meeting. We will now
Josh,
go into non-public.
shoes on